Academic freedom, viva!
Viva!
Viva! Viva! Viva! Super Vanguard, viva!
Viva!
Yo! Super always defend the fundamental interests of the Liberian people. Yo, yo!
Yo!
Yo! Struggle or perish. Yo, yo!
Yo!
Reactionary tendencies!
Yes!
Reactionary tendencies!
Yes!
Criminal cabal!
Yes!
Criminal cabal!
Yes!
Criminal cabal!
Yes!
Legend!
Yes!
Legend!
Yes!
Criminal legend!
Yes!
Yo! The corrupt forces must be brought to justice. Yo, yo!
Yo!
Yo! Rescue the state from the criminal gang. Yo, yo!
Yo!
Yo! Rescue the state from the criminal gang. Yo, yo!
Yo!
Yo! The Vanguard party will protect the state. Yo, yo!
Yo!
Welcome, brothers and friends. Revolutionary militant massacres. Academic students of the University of Liberia. Progressive journalists, and of course, yellow journalists. Our revolutionary online viewers, and of course, our reactionary online viewers. Permit me the little latitude to bring you warm revolutionary greetings from the sacred office of the most powerful man on the campuses of the University of Liberia. The holy office of his revolutionary nobility and revolutionary excellence. Comrade Chairman Sheikh Khalid Baba Watafa Mustafa Kimel Arator Khan.
Yo! The most powerful man. Yo, yo! Yo!
And before we move forward, as it is a tradition in the Student Unification Party,
So!
we want to recognize all ideological militants and Star Wars that constitute the progressive membership of the Student Unification Party.
So!
We accord you our revolutionary Black Power salute. And of course, we want to recognize the attendance, ideological central committant of the Revolutionary 34th Central Committee of the Indomitable Revolutionary Vanguard Student Unification Party.
So!
And we also want to recognize the revolutionary attendance, ideological bureaucrats, to begin with the revolutionary treasurer, her revolutionary eminence, Comrade Ideologue Mama Winnie Mary Kopo Kakola. And we also want to recognize the attendance, the financial secretary of the Student Unification Party,
So!
Comrade Ideologue Kelvin Batua. And we also want to recognize the Assistant Secretary General of the Student Unification Party,
So!
Comrade Lord Lawrence Suwantua. We also want to recognize the attendance fellow comrades, the Secretary General of the Student Unification Party,
So!
Comrade Lord Jusu Gamal Kamara. And of course, we must recognize the attendance, the co-chair of governmental affairs, in Comrade Ideologue Hegesin Kuhn. And we must also recognize the co-chair of party's affairs, the chief doctor of the Student Unification Party,
So!
in person of Comrade Ideologue Comrade Cadre Marcus Goodrich. And of course, we must recognize as well his revolutionary eminence and revolutionary valor of this biggest conscious character on the perimeters and the bellows of the University of Liberia, Comrade Cadre Chairman Mustafa Kimel Arator. But fellow Liberians and fellow journalists, we want to say to you that today again is another critical day in the history of the Student Unification Party. Today is another day that has been set aside in the history of the Student Unification Party, where corrupt elements will be taken to task. It will interest you to know that over the period, the Liberian Republic has been hijacked by corrupt forces. And these forces have vulgarized the sacred fabric of the Liberian society. And SUP as a revolutionary institution that has always been in the vanguard protecting the state against corruption, against debauchery, and against administrative truculence. We always shoulder the obligation to police the fabric of the Liberian society against administrative gangsterism that is at the dead service and interest of the masses of the Liberian people. In recent times, the Liberian Anti-Corruption Commission announced to the Liberian people and announced to the public about the corruption saga alleges, not only alleges, but several government entities and institutions.
The Minister of Agriculture to
And at these institutions, bad elements, reactionary elements, elements that are against the best democratic practices that should be practicalized to operate a progressive state, has taken over these institutions to vulgarize the destiny and fabric of these institutions at the dead service of the progressive trend of this country. And SUP as a revolutionary institution, whenever issues of corruption emerge, she will play that decisive role to protect the state, against vulgarity and corruption. And just as the other role she has always to play.
Don't let the funny brothers Unification party live. Comrades and friends, militants and cardinals of the all-powerful Unification party, the progressive journalists and the peace-loving people of Liberia. Today, the Unification party 31st Politburo and Central Committee, to the chairman of the all-powerful Unification party, Cabinet Chairman M. Mustafa Kane, is going to be addressing, or will be addressing the state on issue of national concerns. Comrades, as we all know, corruption has become the nightmare that is eating the fabric of Liberian society, especially in public service. It is not lost on us that since the inception of this gangster and despotic regime headed over by George Manuel S. Dot, this regime has never wavered in terms of looting the state and transforming the nation state into a casino, plundering the resources for personal aggrandizement, then to put the resources of the state in the service of the sovereign humanity of our people. So today, the Corruption Scandal Act legislation will be addressed decisively by the most powerful man on the university campuses in Cabinet Chairman M. Mustafa Kane. And the message will go forth to the regime and to the minions of the regime that the Unification Party has got a revolutionary monumental responsibility to uphold the constitution of the society and to uphold best democratic practices as it is called for in national service or in public service. So comrades, 5 years down the line, hope, despair, and decadence remain the imagery the masses of the Liberian people offer on their faces. Comrades, discontent upon discontent is eating the masses of the Liberian people, debauching them and reducing them to nothing and to simple existence, simply because we emphasize we've got a regime that has tipped up the state into debauchery and disdain, into the abyss of frustration. Comrades, so today, comrades, this constitution that we have and this democracy that we have, comrades, is something that was born on the tears and sweat and the blood of some of the brightest of our compatriots and comrades. So, as a generation, like all other people dead before us, we've had a responsibility to uphold the democratic tenets of the society, to agitate for better governance structure and better governance practices, to agitate that the livelihood of the people be improved. Comrades, this democracy that we have was won on the tears, the sweat, and the blood of Competro and Cadre in Chairman Wagabi Tapia, a military of the Unification Party. These are people who pay the supreme ultimate prices in ensuring that we have a democratic space called Liberia today. So the Unification Party, under the leadership of the 31st Politburo Central Committee, is going to live in a historical and revolutionary tradition of agitating within the confines of the constitution of this society, and agitating that the democracy of this society be persevere and guarantee for the safety and the guarantee of a harmonious society. This is our historical and revolutionary responsibility. So we stop here, comrades, to usher in the most powerful man of the Politburo, the Central Committee for Committee and the General Congress of the all-powerful Unification Party. Private Chairman Mustafa Kane, Sheikh Khaled, the Baba Watafa, and the Muni Mutafa of the all-powerful Vanguard Unification Party. But before calling on the chairman who has done many things, to have the place in quietude, no passing around. You must besiege all of the queues and ensure that this place is well secured and guaranteed that the chairman speaks to the people of Liberia. So, Comrade Chairman, we also like to call all of the journalists forth to occupy the front line of the queue. Occupy the front line of the queue so that you can have access to getting the information unhinderedly. So, Comrade Chairman, the progressive journalists, the progressive comrades, and the progressive Liberian people. Manda!
Vanguard Unification Party. University of Liberia, Capitol Hill, Monrovia, Liberia. SUP welcomes Liberia's Anti-Corruption Commission LCC report, calls for the immediate suspension or dismissal and subsequent prosecution of latest boss Professor Francis Webb and his deputies Lawrence George and Wilmot Smith, and with immediate effect expels Wilmot Smith from the federal community of the Vanguard Unification Party.
Sir!
Comrades and friends, brothers and sisters in the struggle for liberation, striving militants and other laws whose struggle is to overturn systemic backwardness, revere cadres and patrons, market women who discipline themselves in marketplaces to provide decent education for the masses' children, waiters and waitresses who are paid unjustly for decent services provided, street vendors who keep our society going, civil servants and mine workers of multinational corporations who are paid with meager salary only to survive and not to prosper, noble militants and stalwarts of Africa's oldest pan-African mass-based revolutionary movement, the Vanguard Unification Party.
Sir!
Distinguished members of the press, we bring you fraternal revolutionary greetings from the 31st Politburo and Central Committee of the Vanguard Unification Party.
Sir!
Since the inception of the Vanguard Unification Party, from the heydays of the oligarchy up to the brutal days of tyranny and gangsterism, and to the eve of plunder and corruption, to the current rottenness and decadence of the current state, the Vanguard Party has and will always be a towering voice against societal dominion as well as corruption, power governance, looting, systemic stealing of public resources, and international partners funding without fear. Given this historical mandate, SUP welcomes the recent LCC report, which exposes not just individuals in the menacing act of corruption, but also the rottenness of the CDC regime and the systemic decadence in public service under President George Weah. The recent LCC report is yet another testimony to how common criminals and fortune hustlers have taken over the state and are looting the state on an industrial scale. Painstakingly,
SUP is complaining about continuous wave of reports bordering on unrepentant act of corruption and have engulfed public entities, especially the Liberia Institute of Statistics and Geoinformation Services (LIGIS), at the detriment of good governance and public trust, as exposed by the LCC's report. The recent LCC's report clearly opened our eyes on a high level of corruption scandal alleges, which are provoked LCC boss Professor Francis Ware and two of his top deputies for organized corruption, for which SUP is calling for the immediate suspension or dismissal by President George Weah and subsequently be forwarded to court for prosecution in line with the findings and recommendations of the LCC report. Amongst other national present responsibilities, LIGIS has a vital and indispensable role of conducting the national population and housing census in Liberia. However, since 2018, the government of George Weah through LIGIS has failed to conduct the second post-war census, in contrast to the Constitution of the Republic of Liberia, which mandates the government of Liberia to conduct census every 10 years. A simple task. This corrupt government is demonstrating its incapability of performing. What a shame on the CDC government. Such unconstitutional violations are amongst the many acts that have exposed the ineptitude and recklessness which characterize the poor leadership alleges on President Weah. This unconstitutional delay has been worsened by massive corruption and don't-care thievery that have befallen LIGIS by those responsible to provide leadership in this institution. SUP uses this medium to demand the immediate suspension or dismissal and subsequent prosecution of Professor Ware, Director General of LIGIS, Lawrence A. George Sr., Deputy Director General for Administration, and Wilmore F. Smith, Jr., Deputy Director for General Information and Coordination. SUP believes that the information circulating in the public about the misuse and abuse of financial resources of over 700,000 USD by these individuals at LIGIS as released by the LCC report already undermines the public trust in these individuals, and we will further have them not presiding over LIGIS, because by them presiding over the institution will further erode the integrity of the upcoming census in 2022. As if the current report of open corruption at LIGIS is not sufficient, it is so disappointing that after the investigation by the LCC, these individuals have since quadrupled their act in astronomical proportion of blundering the remaining census funding by stealing pipeline in the season 2 of the latest corruption saga, as they have depicted and deleted one Abigail T. Momo, who was first rare stealing pipeline in season 1. The entire stealing situation at LIGIS is now a season show.
I'm here to 53 minutes than you.
SUP believes the bravery and willful act of Director General Francis Ware and his partner in crime is anchored on the assurance of the protection of Finance Minister Samuel Tuadjian, who is the latest board chair. The party believes also that since this foreboding president, George Weah has taken no action to suspend or dismiss these individuals pending prosecution, plus the assured protection by Samuel Tuadjian, they can proceed to depleting the remaining census resources in the covers of LIGIS without fear or favor.
Reactionary tendency.
Abbas.
Reactionary tendency.
Abbas.
Somewhere.
Abbas.
Georgia.
Abbas.
Georgia.
Abbas.
Yo. They are operating in criminal syndicate. Yo.
In the face of this national embarrassment, SUP will take unspecified revolutionary actions if these criminals are not suspended pending prosecution as recommended in the LCC's report or dismissed with immediate effect. SUP therefore calls on President Weah and the criminals protector Samuel 12 to act accordingly by dismissing these criminals alleges or be acted upon in a way in a way that they have never experienced before in this country by the Vanguard Unification Party. So, I repeat, SUP therefore calls on President Weah and the criminals protector Samuel 12 to act accordingly by dismissing these criminals alleges or they be acted upon in a way never experienced by the Vanguard Unification Party. So, through revolutionary action. Comrades and friends, SUP will not rest. We will go at any length to ensure a forceful action is implemented to restore the lost dignity, value, and integrity of leaders in the Republic of Liberia at large. In this vein, SUP wants to inform Mr. Weah and his corruption-prone government that the Liberian people will not accept anything less than a comprehensive conduct of the national population and housing census in 2022. SUP strongly believes that if this is not done to ascertain the possible number of inhabitants in the country, George Weah and his cronies will use the absence of conducting the census as a clever attempt to rig the upcoming 2022 academic Congress. SUP strongly believes that if this is not done to ascertain the possible number of inhabitants in the country, George Weah and his cronies will use the absence of conducting the national census as a clever attempt to rig the 2023 general and presidential elections.
Reactionary tendency. Reactionary tendency. Trying to rig elections. Power governance. Corruption. George Weah. Samuel 12. 40. Yo.
SUP is using this medium to raise a red flag before the 2023 general elections and also calling on opposition political party not to remain silent as well as international stakeholders as SUP is now raising a red flag to expose the wicked, calculated, motivated plan by the wicked Weah regime to rig the upcoming 2023 election.
Reactionary tendency. Rigging of election. Bastardization of the democracy of the state. Yo. Where is a despot? Yo.
We categorically state that any attempt by George Weah and his clique of coke to further delay or suspend the conduct of the planned national housing and population census this year will be vehemently resisted by the meditators and cadre of the Vanguard Unification Party with the collective resolve of the Liberian people. As the country heads towards the very crucial elections in 2023, the conduct and subsequent statistics from the national housing and population census will play a key role in ensuring electoral transparency and fairness. Additionally, the statistics from the census will provide information to ensure the redirecting and redistricting of various districts in the political subdivision of the country, project statistics on the voting population, as well as aid with a comparative analysis between the voters' roll and the voting population, as well as minimize any room for political gerrymandering. SUP therefore demands the conduct of census in 2022 and nothing more, nothing less.
Compulsory census this year. Yo.
Consequently, And with immediate effect, the Vanguard Unification Party expels Wilmer F. Smith Jr. from the federal community of the Vanguard Unification Party. Consequently, and with immediate effect, the Vanguard Unification Party expels Wilmer F. Smith Jr. from the federal community of the Vanguard Unification Party for act anti-ethical and demeaning to the doctrine, norms, philosophy, custom, and tradition of the Vanguard Unification Party. And hereby calls for his immediate dismissal, along with his cronies, in line with the tradition and custom of the party, for stealing, as well as being aware of his involvement in the National Bureau of Concession criminal saga after the passing of Vegetano Mauro. Therefore, SUP calls on all veterans, towers, military and sympathizers, well-wishers, to refrain and disassociate from doing business with the expelled individual in the name of SUP veteran on the other order. In conclusion, as corruption and public looting takes center stage in Liberia under the CDC regime, the Vanguard Party calls on the Liberian masses to remain resolute, resolved, committed, and determined as we exert every effort possible to retire the rotting leadership from this country. We can assure our people that the dawn of economic and national revitalization will emerge soon. We are a corner of fast be placed in the dustbin of history. It is just a matter of the time that will come past soon. Long live the Vanguard Unification Party. Long live SUP. The struggle continues. Dawn on the 7th day of July, AD 2022, by mandate of the 31st Politburo and Senate Committee, concomitantly of the El-Potent Vanguard Unification Party. Signed, Comekadio Duzu Kamara, Secretary General Vanguard Unification Party. Approved, Mustafa Nkane, Chairman Vanguard Unification Party.
Comrades and friends, we dress up journalists into the Liberian people. We'll come back to each journalist. You listen to the chairman address the corruption saga at Lagos, calling on the real administration to dismiss those who are involved and to send them for prosecution. And otherwise, again, the chairman expels by mandate of the 31st Central Committee and Politburo of the Unification Party, Veteran Wilmer S. Smith Jr. from the Veteran Committee of the Unification Party. So he listened to the chairman spoke well. It is time that you ask questions, so we'll afford 3 persons to ask questions or to raise concern. Please ask a question in the confines of everything that was being said by the chairman of the Student Unification Party. Anything outside the box will not be accommodated. We start with
Commissioner. So I'm Sherman from KMTV, and just to let you know, I'm assigned at the Senate. And I heard you talk about the census. The just informed the Senate about getting the census. Everything is in tight this year, but the legislature from the Senate postponed it to next year in March. Are you considering the census, the legis, or are you considering the legislature? Because it's the legislature who has the power right now as it is.
Thank you very much for your question. That is a very brilliant question. We can understand the Senate has been a Tamani hall. This Senate has been a kangaroo Senate, a rubber stamp Senate. So, however, we as Liberian people and conscious students, we understand the running of this country and how decisions are made. And the Liberian people has been deprived for the past 10 years. Since this government took over, we have not been able to have census, and we see this as a diabolical political plot and political gerrymandering to foster cheating in the upcoming 2023 elections. So by postponing the planned census of 2022, the Senate is only going to exacerbate the tension of the Vanguard party in the Liberian people, because if you postpone the census of 2023, but then will be election year, and everyone will not be focused on the census. Thereby, we may not have the opportunity to have accurate statistics. As an institution, we are going to address the Senate responsibly. As a responsible body, we expect them to respond to us responsibly. However, with leaders being the institution responsible to conduct census, we are putting their feet to the fire now so that the census can be conducted in due course. Thank you very much. Next question.
My name is Lincoln Peters and I report for the New Dawn newspaper. I have a concern, Honorable Chair. You have touched every component of the EDCC. But one more thing is that the EDCC report catalog two main institutions, and one of which is the Agriculture Ministry. You talk about legislation being cataloged also within the report. You have not touched the Agriculture Ministry. Once you are examining the report of the EDCC and welcoming their investigations and funding and calling up for speedy prosecutions of those people, don't you think it's low targeting if you refuse to make mentions of other institutions that were also listed and cataloged within the report, and thereby alluding to only leges?
Great question, decent journalist Lincoln Peters. I salute you, comrade. Well, the Vanguard Unification Party as an institution takes decision on the basis of the Central Committee and Politburo and urgency, based on the urgency of the census as well as the exigency of this issue. The Central Committee and Politburo thought it was that the party speak on this issue and speak to it decisively so that the Liberian people can have their money restituted. As you are aware, the corruption scandal alleges is not a yesterday thing. The corruption scandal alleges was first introduced when it was 70,000 missing from the census account. Now, since the NCC report, we have credible information in our possession that Princess Rare and deputies continue to plunder the census account. That is, they continue to withdraw funding from the census account, which will impede the smooth conduction of the census. You are aware in the press conference we told you about one Lawrence Yabati, who is now being used as a stealing pipeline of the leges to continue wiring money out of the census account. As it stands, with the information we have, leges has been able to, Professor Fraser Rare has been able to steal more than 60,000 United States dollars to Lawrence Batty, who is not an employee of leges, and also through other means, which we have documents of ascertain. Looking at the urgency and the urgency of this matter, it is only prudent that the Unification Party speak only before it goes out of hand. So on that basis, we say thank you for your question, but leges issue now is paramount on the agenda, and the Vanguard Party will consistently and continuously condemn corruption. We condemn all those in the parties of corruption. We can answer you one by one. Today it will be leges, tomorrow it can be Agriculture Ministry, tomorrow it can be NEC, and whatsoever. That depends on the decision making body of the Unification Party.